What's up, guys? So, a lot of you guys know Tyler the Great Warrior, the Make-A-Wish Foundation Yu-Gi-Oh card, had recently sold on eBay for $311,000. And a lot of people are wondering, is this the most expensive Yu-Gi-Oh card of all time, myself included? And I actually went ahead and did some research to find out what is the most expensive Yu-Gi-Oh card of all time. I wanted to make this video of a top 10 list, but slowly realized it is almost impossible to track every single card. Well, we could go ahead and look up on eBay and see all these completed listings real easy, and I could just make a video going over, like, some of these most expensive Yu-Gi-Oh cards. There are a lot of Japanese cards where we can't really source where the information has actually come from, and some of these I've looked at other Yu-Gi-Oh content creators videos. There's like a Watch Mojo most expensive Yu-Gi-Oh cards ever. Some of these there's not really a source, and while I wanted to try to make this video as legitimate as possible, going over all of the cards that have sold with kind of some proof to back it up, unfortunately, there are so many cards that are so difficult to actually go ahead and find the source. There's a few different websites that I'm going to use here, but it's going to be kind of a video where there is some leeway here because there is actual card value and there's actual card proof, like this collection over here. This guy actually sold a set of Blue Eyes for $20,000, which is quite a bit, but there's at least proof, right? He's showing off the money, so there is some sort of proof with this video. But there are so many insanely rare Yu-Gi-Oh cards that people have literally never even gotten more pictures than like one of, and it's in like potato quality, like this one over here, which is a signed Blue Eyes fusion that was supposedly sold to another YouTuber. And I was actually trying to look up the source of this because look how much is listed. Obviously it's in yen over here, but this one was apparently sold to a YouTuber, and I was trying to track down some of these sources on some of these websites. A lot of the links were actually kind of broken, as in they didn't work, or sometimes, if they're listing it on a card website, they maybe have moved domains. I don't know what the case was. A lot of these links were actually broken, but I was trying to find out this card over here by the YouTuber named YuGiOh, and there is no info on this. And I was thinking, well, it's kind of true. If you think about it, it's not like we have like these YouTuber vloggers like Logan Paul or something that would show off, I've just bought this Pokemon card for millions of dollars. They're not going to be flexing on like a YouTube video or like maybe even a Bilibili video, because that's not what they do. These are either sold at private auctions or maybe just a person-to-person deal. So it's kind of hard to track everything. So I wanted to go ahead and try to give you guys a few different sources over here, because there's a lot of great websites that have a bunch of cards listings. Some of these are going to be in actual value, but some of these are actually going to be in actual sold completed listings. So that said, take this video with a grain of salt, because I'm going to cover some of the cards that we may not have 100% proof on, other than like, well, it's on a website and it was listed for this much. So I'm going to include both, because I didn't want to just go over the 100% facts, because Tyler, in theory, actually might be the #1 sold Yu-Gi-Oh card in terms of price point that we can actually track. However, there is apparently that YouTuber that actually bought a card for over $400,000, which would in theory make it #1, but there's so many that actually list off specifically a Black Luster, which will show off in the #1 spot, because it's just known as the #1 most expensive Yu-Gi-Oh card of all time. So let's go ahead and now get started with the video, now that I've kind of explained some background and kind of how we're making this video using other websites and kind of giving you guys just an idea, right? So there's multiple Blue Eyes that have been DDS that have sold for thousands and thousands of dollars. You can go to completed listings on eBay, but this is a PSA 10, and apparently this is actually what some of these have actually sold for. Again, some of these have a little bit more background and some real info. Some of these are kind of like just subjective. There is the 2003 Dark Magician Girl, which sold for $20,000 as well. So basically, relatively close in terms of the price point over here. Well, some of these are just graded cards, and the problem is you actually might get less money for a graded card. This was actually a discussion that some people were talking about with Tyler the Great Warrior. If the guy didn't get the card graded, he might have actually gotten more money, because, any collector doesn't want to look at a card and think, I'm spending this much money and it's not even a 10. But there's literally only one copy, so it doesn't really matter. But I think that even if it got that card graded, I personally think that it would have been smarter just to sell it ungraded, unless it got a 10. And that's because collectors, they want to see that 10, right? So a lot of these are going to be kind of gravy. This is a wavy BGS Blue Eyes, which is actually more valuable by another $1,000, and it has like the date at which some of these have maybe actually sold for. So this is why I'm kind of using this site. This is 1:37 p.m. So credit to them for this video, or I should say like this website, because it's listing a lot of the cards. Again, this is like more proof, because we're going to go down the rabbit hole that I went down for hours looking up all these card prices. Now, this is a 2002 LOB YuGiOh and a PSA 10 sold for $29,000. That is pretty high up there. Now, there's crazy enough, perfectly great moth, no red DDS promo, so I guess this was kind of like a misprint-ish, almost $30,000, and this sold relatively recently within the past like 2 years over here. Next up, we have the SJC Cyberstein. This card was insane, $30,000 on 10/28/20 for this one over here. And then we have an LOB first edition Exodia, the forbidden one, and that sold for $35,000. Now over here we have a 2002 AzneyesWhitedragon PSA 10 for $47,000, and at number 2 we have a AzneyesWhitedragon PSA 10 for $85,000, and this was sold within the past like 3 years, so that's pretty recent as well. Now this is the one that's listed on every single top 10 list. This is a tournament blackluster soldier. There's very few images. Even this image right here is potato quality. All the images of these are kind of hidden. So let's go around some little bit of backstory for this. So in terms of the most valuable card, even someone could list something for $10 million, because this was listed apparently for $10 million. If you guys look up the source of the website, it doesn't even exist anymore. But apparently it was sold privately for $2 million. This was an exclusive prize card awarded at the first ever Yu-Gi-Oh tournament in 1999. It is printed on stainless steel, so it's not like a regular Yu-Gi-Oh card. And what's weird is Blackluster Soldier, I believe, was a ritual, and this is a vanilla, which is very strange. It is a one of the kind, and it's rumors around the actual sell price, which is actually listed on a few different ones. Now, some of these, again, I kind of wanted to make this video at least covering some of the cards that are a little bit more obscure and their actual like value versus what they've sold for, because again, people have listed that Blackluster sold for 10 million apparently, and we'll get into that in a second here. But anyways, I wanted to go and check out some of the cards in terms of its actual value. This website, Rarest, showed off a few cool Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I did also want to cover, and this is kind of their list, and their list is going to be a little bit different because they're going over some of the cards in terms of how they ordered it in value versus what they've officially sold for. We did kind of go for the officially what they've actually sold for, and it has like the exact dates, which is kind of cool. But this one is a 1998. This is back when Bandai used to do some of the artwork for Yu-Gi-Oh! Before it kind of became a mainstream like card game. You can see the artwork. This is Swords of Revealing Light. Now, if you go to eBay, you can find some of these prints of some of these are, a lot of these are actually replicas, but you can see some of these have actually listed for like $2,000. Now, the thing is if you're listing something versus it actually selling, that's why I wanted to kind of separate this video in kind of two sections here, just to give you guys some knowledge, because I like this idea. But here's a first edition Blue Eyes. Obviously, we know that there are Blue Eyes that have sold for way more than this. This one's kind of like a low area over here, but it was in the starter box of it. So this one is kind of in terms of its actual like listing, because there's, in terms of top 10, there's lots of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but I didn't want to go ahead and highlight this website because they have a bunch of really cool listings for certain cards that people haven't actually seen, and on top of that, we have some sort of like additional info, which I think is pretty cool. So this is Skuna the Leon Rakan. So this card was only given out as a YCS prize card. There's a lot of these cards where like if it attacks directly and like wins, reduces their life points to 0, you win the entire match. Now, these are special Yu-Gi-Oh cards that cannot be used in a duel. They're only for prize cards. There's so many Yu-Gi-Oh prize cards in general that have sold for thousands of dollars. Some of the even the Dark Lords, I remember that as well. But these were prize cards in the current value. See, this is where it gets a little bit like iffy. We're going over value versus like an official like selling listing that has been completed. But again, interesting parts of the video here. But yeah, 6,000 for that. And then over here we have the SJC Cyberstein. Now, it's interesting because we actually already saw the listing of the Cyberstein sell for way, way, way more. Now, that is also because it's graded. That's where it gets a little bit iffy. Is the card worth more ungraded or graded? Most of the time, if it's a high grade, people will actually sell it graded, but sometimes what people do is they get them graded by someone else, because some different card companies will actually give you a 10, some will give you a 9, or sometimes you can literally send it into the same card company and someone else will do the grading on it, and it can get a completely different score, even from the exact same company. But SJCs, I've seen multiple of these sell for like 5K plus, so this one is pretty legit. Even though it shows a DB, it's the SJC. It's a prize card, so that is why that one is very expensive. And then we have Armament of the Lethal Lords. Again, current value 9,000. It's another prize card. There's a lot of these Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are prize cards, and they will all say like it can't be used in a duel, but it reduces their opponent's life points to 0, and you like win the match. But this was released in 2006, and this is also where I guess the original set was printed over there. The next up we have a Link monster, which is getting a little bit more interesting. Now we're in like the 12, or I guess 13,000 here. This is Iron Knight of Revolution. A lot of you guys probably didn't even see this card before. And some of these, again, there's very few pictures on some of these cards because people just don't have them because they're so extremely rare. Now Iron Knight of Revolution, it says it must be Link summon. If this extra Link card attacks your opponents directly and reduces life points to 0, you win the match. But this is another card where you can't use it in a duel. Why do they have these? I don't know. You guys can speculate. I always think it's cool when we can actually use these prize cards, but then sometimes people always say the game can be pay to win. This was very irrelevant when Crush Card Virus was a thing. Even Minerva, a very expensive Yu-Gi-Oh card, a couple $1,000s as well. Depending on the rarity, you can get, I think there were supers that were going for a few hundred, but nonetheless, those existed as well. And then we have Amatsu Okami of the Divine Peaks. This is another Link monster. This one has a current set value of almost $19,000. This was given at the 2018 Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship, so it's an extra secret rare, so that's pretty cool. It's another one of those attack, you reduce, you win the entire match. Now, this is where we have the same exact card. Now, this one is supposed to be the same card that we showed off that was listed that the YouTuber bought, and this is like another picture of it. In terms of its like, you know, origins, it's kind of difficult to actually get a lot of, again, good pictures, but this is a one-of-a-kind prize given to the Asian Championships at 2001. So the asking price was 45 million yen. As you guys remember over here, this was the price of the Yu-Gi-Oh card. However, what's interesting with this is, again, this is the one that YouTuber bought, and this is supposed to be the same one. It looks a little bit different in terms of the text, but again, sometimes there's just no information in terms of pictures on some of these cards. Because this one obviously looks like it's gold lettering. Again, it could just be the angle that it was taken on. And on top of that, there's like a glass case on top of like a piece of plastic to protect it. So it's kind of hard to see. But this one apparently was $400,000 is what it sold for. Again, that YouTuber bought it. That is kind of something I'm hoping that someone in the Yu-Gi-Oh community can find out that guy's YouTube channel, or maybe he uses Bilibili, which is kind of like the Japanese version of like YouTube. They could find it, because that would be a more legitimate source if we can like kind of rank these cards. So this one actually lists Tyler the Great Warrior, and it's interesting because this one was set for the asking price, and this is spot number 3. However, Tyler, we have a spot of number 2. Now, he did get offered $75,000 apparently for this. However, a lot of people projected Tyler the Great Warrior to sell for over $1 million. If you just Google it, we've done lots of videos talking about like what could it actually go for. A lot of people speculated way over 500,000, no problem. And it's so strange that it actually only sold for, and I say only sold for because some people are like, they don't understand. This should be the most expensive Yu-Gi-Oh card of all time. There's literally only a one-of copy, and we have Kazuki Takahashi doing the artwork on this, and he is no longer with us. And on top of that, we have our original additional artwork, which wasn't included in the listing, which I'm wondering if that was sold, could that have actually increased the price of this card? Because that, again, that's original artwork that was done by Kazuki himself. That should have actually made the card go way over the price, and I think a lot of people are very, very surprised. If you look at any Yu-Gi-Oh forums, everyone's talking about Tyler right now. So again, this was not for sale, but it says it was offered $75,000. A lot of people again speculated it was worth over $1 million, but it never sold for even close to that. It practically had a bid that was over $1 million. It was set to 1.4, but the guy backed out. It was like basically a bootleg. It was a scam basically that someone did. Now again, this one is also listing this tournament Blackluster Soldier, which was given out at the very first ever Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. And like I mentioned before, there's really no knowledge of this. No one really knows, and like there was a listing apparently, and I went to the source of it. It doesn't exist anymore. Again, could have been the website was taken down, they changed domains, whatever the case may be. I tried to look up any info on it. Again, this is 1999. This is back before we had like, you know, good quality internet. This is back when we're still playing like Diablo 2 online on like dial-up. But for the most part, it was valued at 10 million. It was trying to be sold for 10 million, but it was reportedly sold for 2 million. Is this real? I don't know. But at the end of the day, I want to try to give you guys all the information. This one, we're probably not going to find information. This one has some potential, this signed Blue Eyes, because if it's owned by someone that has a YouTube channel, he could easily have uploaded a video. But again, I searched for the name. There really wasn't too much info on this guy over here. But this is apparently the most rare and expensive, because this was 1999. To have this in good condition probably wouldn't be that hard considering it's printed on stainless steel. Yeah, hopefully it remained, but there's no good pictures of this card, and sadly it's all just kind of out there, and I almost think that that is kind of cool versus just a YouTuber owning it. And you know, I was actually really surprised by it, and I'm curious to know, were you guys surprised that like Logan Paul didn't like buy this card? I thought like he would have tried to collect this card as well, as this is literally a one of. It's crazy. But anyways, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for the video, guys. Let me know what you think is going to be the most rarest Yu-Gi-Oh card of all time in the future. Do you guys think this Tournament Blackluster Soldier is still going to actually be able to sell for millions of dollars? Or do you think that, you know, this is all just kind of just speculation and no one's actually going to be buying it for billions of dollars? But there it is. We have the list of like, you know, the completed listings, and on top of that, I give you guys the info on some of like the speculation ones, because that's kind of at the end of the day where these cards are in terms of its value, because some of the stuff we just don't have that much information. But anyways, maybe we'll make a follow-up video with all of the cards with the completed listings in the future if we can maybe get some sources on this. If you do want to see that and this is your first time here, subscribe, turn the bell, and you'll definitely see more. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Peace out.